Welcome once again to another edition of the High School Coaches Corner program. I'm Jeff Ruth, and Coach, we finally got you up here. I know it wasn't for a lack of trying.
Right. Yeah, been real busy over at Grant, so it's been hard to get over here today. A little slower day, so they told me to come over here and wrap out the year.
And why not talk about a win?
Absolutely.
I've made the comment, many times before. You're 8-1, 7-0. It's easy to go out for practice, but when you're 0-8, 0-9, 1-7, that's what really develops character. And I know your guys had a lot of character this year.
They did have a lot of character. We try to freshen things up for the kids a little bit earlier in the that run right there. I think it was week 8. We started putting a little bit of games in here and there at the end of practice, trying to make it fun for them. But yeah, I mean, being 9-1 and coming to practice is easy. Being 0-9 and showing up every day and still grinding, that says a lot about those kids walking the hallway out there.
And the fact that you were able to be pleasant after what they did last year, I'm sure when the schedule came out, you probably had that date circled.
That date's been circled for a very long time. And actually, if you're a Marion Harding guy or anyone from the old MOAC, that game's scheduled pretty much by all of us. So.
We'll come back. We'll take a look at some of the highlights from the contest last Friday. Nice way to close out the season. Also going to be talking with Scott Cameron, and we'll have some other items thrown in as well. We'll be back on our Coaches Corner program right after these words.
The historic OK Cafe.
Pizza, calzones, subs, sandwiches, and more.
Our fresh dough is made daily, topped with your favorite ingredients and made to order.
Stop in for our lunch buffet or check out our many daily specials.
Looking for something to do?
Come in and check out our giant projector screen on game days. Sing with friends on karaoke nights and dance the night away with live entertainment from your favorite local bands.
So even though Rex might have a short reach, we'll never come up short on service.
So remember, when you're hungry, check out the OK Cafe, home of the giant 20-inch Pizzasaurus Rex made to order. Dine in, carry out, or delivery. Come to the historic OK Cafe, located at 734 East Center Street, Marion made for over 80 years.
Once again, back on the Coach's Corner program, and Coach had a chance to do, I think, 3 of your games this year. I remember the Vernon game 1, you really outplayed them. If you get that win instead of losing double overtime, I know the Newark game, you had a kickoff called back on the opening play. If you score there, you could be very easily and probably would have been 2-1 instead of being 0-3, and that really kind of set the tempo.
Absolutely. Like I said, I've mentioned this to you before, we don't make excuses around here, but, we were playing a lot of young players, you know what I mean? And so those games there, our youth caught up to us in some of those games, and, lack of conditioning, throughout the summer also hurt us a little bit in the Mount Vernon game. We asked those kids to go out there and essentially play 6 quarters of football, and they weren't, physically capable of doing so. We had a lot of cramping going on. That game there, we actually had a lot of injury. We lost Trinity Keith, who's just an amazing, asset to any team. Marion Ross went down. So, we had a lot of injuries in that. We had conditioning factors. I told the kids going into the Mount Vernon week, I said, it's Mount Vernon week. You got to be prepared physically. I said, start drinking water now. And that was the Friday before, because for some reason it's always 100 degrees when you play Mount Vernon. So we're always fighting the cramps. Newark, it is what it is. You know what I mean? We actually had a couple touchdowns called back that game. But the kids showed a lot of character. They showed some fight that game, and we were proud of them as a staff, and we were very, very optimistic going into the conference play.
Well, the best game I saw you play was the game against Thailand. You're actually up 7 at halftime, ended up losing by 2 scores, but I thought you came out and played really, really well in that ball game.
Yeah, we put together a good game plan for Highland. Defensively, I mean, we know that who we had to stop there. Dane Nallman's a monster in that backfield. So, I mean, we had a game plan put together. They made some good adjustments. They caught on to our trigger words because we were calling a lot of our stunts and our movements and whatnot on the field. They were just audible to the opposite side or, change things up with us. The kids, wasn't catching on to that at first. And then by the time that, they were able to actually, see what was going on and realize they were catching, our target words, we were starting to get a little bit behind on that.
You mentioned Trinity. I know Lem missed a few games, and he really wasn't 100% maybe the whole year. But if you have a healthy Trinity and a healthy Lem, I think the results would have been different this year as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you look against Pleasant, we had over 200 yards rushing just with those two right there. You put that up against Newark, you put that against Ashland, you put that against Mount Vernon, even Gallion and some of these other schools. They're low. I think I heard Mr. Cameron calling them thunder and lightning. You know what I mean? And that's truly what they are. You have the lightning quickness of Trinity Keith, and then you just have, Lim Reynolds bringing the thunder to you. So, yeah, they're 2 major impact players that, could have helped us a lot this season.
Yeah, and we'll look at the highlights in just a moment, but I know penalties really, that was an ongoing concern.
Yeah, unfortunately with youth, you have a lot of mistakes. We saw that, had a lot of holding issues with our young backs coming in, our young wide receivers. Just sometimes losing composure a little bit with, the unsportsmanlike it's there. It happened. We worked on it. We talked about it every week. We paid the consequences. But like I said, it got us. It was a lot of it's due to youth, and with those kids getting the valuable experience they did, hopefully we're able to nip that in the bud moving forward.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights from the contest last Friday night. Earlier mentioned Lem, and our first cut, we're going to see Lem with a touchdown.
This right here is just classic G for Marion Harding. We pull the guard around, kick out the end, and then Lim Reynolds does the rest. I mean, Justin Long did a heck of a job blocking there. Landon Adams sealed the edge. Receivers stock blocked well. And then, you just let that kid run. That's what he does well. Early, I knew that, the quarterback from Pleasant was a young quarterback. We came out in our 33 front. We ran some pretty exotic blitzes, bringing guys from different angles, and it threw them for a loop. This is G once again. Trinity Keith, we hit it off the edge. Instead of Trinity leading for Lim, it was now Lim leading for Trinity to repay it. I believe that was about a 76-yard touchdown run.
If it works once,
absolutely.
Or twice.
And we saw something on film where the linebacker was having some lateral issues, so we wanted to attack that area. Then to counter our run game, they pulled up their safeties and their outside backers, which opened up the middle of the field, and we were able to hit Nick Hecker there on a nice post pattern. This is just playing great defense, man. This is what I've always said is like Marion Harding is a blue-collar town, and defense is a blue-collar thing, and that's what they went out there and did. Field goal, it was an easy decision for us. We talked about that. We wanted to put the pressure on Pleasant where they had to score a touchdown. We didn't know what their kicker really brought to the table. So we put our kicker out there, Jordan Hensley. He's a phenomenal kicker. And we had absolute confidence he was going to stick it through the upright. Now we're up by 4, and we're forcing Pleasant with 60 seconds left on the clock to actually go down and score a touchdown.
and the final score 20-16 in favor of Harding. Let's talk a little bit about Alex Stokes, quarterback. I know he had a rough year this year. He was always getting pressure and so forth, but he stood in the pocket very well, and he's got a rifle for an arm.
Alex has got a ton of arm talent. Alex didn't play JV ball last year a whole lot, trying to keep him healthy, and you could definitely tell that. Going into, this year, we knew he had the arm talent. We knew that he had the athleticism. It was just the lack of game reps. And, I feel confident going into, next season with Alex as a senior that, with this past year, he's going to be, have a really nice season for us.
So what's the message to the players that are coming back next year? Friday night at 10:30, what were you talking about?
Friday night at 10:30, it was just a whole lot of, we had some fun. They had a speaker out. They actually got, the coaches in there doing some of their little dances with them and having a good time. But it's basically, I want them to recover a little bit. I want them to go, get healed up. A lot of our kids, we have a ton of talent in this school, but a lot of these kids are multi-sport athletes, so they're going to be cycling over into basketball. They're going to be cycling over into wrestling. Some of them are going, getting ready to go into baseball even. So we really encouraged our kids to get involved with winter sports, wrestling, swimming, getting, Coach Pearson doing some basketball work. And then, we're also going to open the weight room up on December 4th, or actually that's a Sunday, December 5th, I'm sorry. That gives them their 30-day break, and, Coach Scott, Coach Reynolds, and I will get them in there, and we're going to start on 2023, and get these guys rolling. We got a lot of good ideas put into place. Hopefully, we're able to get all of them implemented and, out to the kids, and, make improvements from this season.
Yeah. And obviously, off-season conditioning is a huge factor.
Absolutely.
And I know you want to see more of that next year.
Absolutely, yeah. That, like I said, first and foremost, I respect a multi-sport athlete, so I want to see these kids playing as many sports as they choose to play. And then, the ones that are, not getting involved, we definitely want to get them into the weight room lifting, get them doing some agility work. We want to have some, team building things going on where we're still doing some physical exercise, but we're doing it in a fun manner. So, yeah, we're definitely going to get on them. Come July, middle of June, end of June, July, that's when we'll really start hammering them on, the conditioning and getting ready for the 2023 run.
Now you know how we do the high school football coaches show.
Absolutely, yeah. I was just mesmerized by this place when I walked in. I've never stepped foot in here, and Mr. Mullins did a good job walking me around, explaining everything to me. And I wish we had something like this when I was a kid. This is really neat. Yeah. So yeah, it was. The kids do a great job. Looks like they have fun with it, and it's a good good thing for our community and our school.
Yep, definitely is. Coach, glad we finally made it. Yeah. One to talk about.
Absolutely. If we get many more, sir.
All right. We'll be back with more on the Coach's Corner program right after these words.
Whoa, slow down there, Hot Rod. We know you're in a hurry to get to the historic OK Cafe located at 734 East Center Street, Marion, Ohio. And we know you can't wait to enjoy the great food and beverages at one of the most popular restaurants in town, known for their famous handmade pizzas, subs, calzones, and more. And we know you can't wait to meet up with good friends for the best in live local entertainment, big screen sports action, bike nights with weekly contests and prizes. But what's the hurry? We're open daily from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 11 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. Fridays and Saturdays, offering dine-in, carry-out, and delivery. Oh well, some people just can't wait to get to the OK Cafe.
Once again, back on the Coach's Corner program, and going to talk with Scott Cameron. Scott is, we're doing a game at Harding. He's upstairs in the press box. You do the TV / YouTube, whatever.
Don't make me out to be more famous than I'm not.
Whatever it's called nowadays.
Yeah, right, yeah. So
it's certainly changed a lot over the years, hasn't it?
yeah, it's very interesting. how I kind of got involved in this. Todd Schneider asked me to help out and do some stuff on the side with them, and then
And it's hard to turn Todd down.
yeah, right. And I did some of this stuff in college. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and do this. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I've been doing it and did a lot with stuff with Aaron Miller this year. He was a color commentator for games 2, 3, and 4. And then John jumps in every once in a while. And basketball season's coming up, so.
Yeah. How much, since obviously you know the players, how much insight do you add to a ball game when you talk about maybe Alex Stokes or Lem Reynolds? Do you throw a lot of that in?
It's one of those deals where we're trying to keep it positive and keep it good for, so there's some times where we'll say, oh, maybe could have looked at this, or, so my job is really to make it listenable and entertaining for the viewer or hearer of the game. And so I'm able to kind of offer some insight as far as maybe some color commentating. I know last year was great when we had 3 people and I was down the field and we could kind of get like a real TV network kind of feel to it. And that was a really cool experience. And but unfortunately that ceased. But you never know, might come back.
Yeah. And when you have a color person or a couple color people, they can keep track of first downs, rushing yardage, passing yardage, penalties. You can kind of get overwhelmed trying to keep track of everything. My philosophy is just basically keep it simple.
Yes.
The listeners wants to know, who ran the ball, who caught the ball, somebody made a good tackle, and for how many yards, and how much time's left in the ball game. And I think there's a tendency maybe to overanalyze ball games and so forth. And most of the listeners are just kind of casual listeners.
Right, and even down to the point where you watch a game and you're thinking, you hear the professionals do it all the time, the big time professionals, right? And they're right, and what do you think they should call here, Rick? And I don't know, Morty. I'm sorry, but that's the whole idea of. You're kind of thinking, well, if I were a coach, what would I call? And so there's some of that too, and people like thinking about, if I were the coach, I would have called that. And sometimes that can snowball into a negativity, and we try not to let it happen with that. And I know you're a great stat keeper, and Jeff and I have done a lot of basketball games together, and I always count on him to keep the stats, and so yeah, that's part of it.
I'll keep track like points and maybe shots, but when you try again to add in the turnovers, the rebounds, the assists, you just can't do that.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. But there's that idea of being able to tell a story. And there's, I do a little bit of homework before I show up Friday night. I go to the MOAC website, look up stats, who's leading, or who's leading the category particularly, or I'll go to Max Preps and I'll look up some stuff, who played who and stuff. So, but that's stuff I learned in college. And so I'm kind of able to apply it now. And so, yeah, I just love doing that stuff.
Do you enjoy football or basketball more?
Personally, basketball I enjoy more, but I think it's a lot harder to call because of the fluidity of the game that tends to occur. And there's a lot more motion that happens. In football, they're just spurts. You know what I mean? There's spurts of motion, and you can see parts and pieces that you can call. And most average viewers of a football game look at the ball.
Right.
And they do that in basketball too. But at least in basketball, it's more pleasant to the eye because there's less bodies moving around. So I personally like basketball more, but yeah.
I think there's, at least for me, there's more of a tendency to get up for football games. Because
correct. That's the big thing.
It's one game a week. With basketball, you're liable to do 3, 4, 5 games a week. And with a 10 games schedule, every game is important.
It is, and it's so weird. You think about I'm going to age myself here. But you think about even things like oldies songs like the Beach Boys and stuff. There's something about high school football games where it's almost romanticized, through pop culture and music and movies and things of that nature. So it happens only during 10 weeks.
No.
You know, and it goes quick, and it's one game a week, like you said. And yeah, basketball it's a marathon.
Yep.
And football's a sprint.
Very good. Appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff.
We'll be back to wrap up this edition of the Coach's Corner program right after these words. Once again, back on the Coach's Corner program, the final Coach's Show for the fall. We'll be resuming again another month or so once basketball season starts. And it's a good thing we didn't call it Football Coach's Show. Because we were able to get volleyball and golf, and we got Sean Kearns, and we had different people on.
Yeah, it was nice. It was one of those odd situations where the season started kind of with one hand tied behind her back because we lost the coach that first week, and it was a scramble to usually we're ready to go, at least on our end, with the pre-production stuff before the season starts, and we were kind of that threw a monkey wrench into everything. So and then of course the Coach Arndt had scheduling conflicts with his work at Grant trying to get over here to do the show. So it was nice that we could finally get him here. But, we discussed throughout the season, well, what are we going to do? Because we wanted to keep the show active.
Sure.
And, what the viewers probably don't, they're not on the inside track of this, but this is how the kids gain their points. This is their homework. This is what they do. And so we needed the events or the show for them to basically get their grades. And I didn't want to lose that, so to kind of rotate people in. And it was nice to have, we got all kinds of feedback, like on the golf show when we had Coach Godfrey in, and Sean Kearns, and just having the other people and kind of spotlighting the other sports that we do throughout the fall season. So that was nice.
All right. We're going to start up again basketball.
Yeah, basketball season, I was going over the calendar just this afternoon, and it's overwhelming how many games we have, and this whole year's been weird because things typically are more spread out, and this year it seems like everything is just boom, boom, boom. And I know we start off the week of Thanksgiving because we do boys and girls basketball, and it's back-to-back games, like you were talking with Mr. Cameron a second ago, and how many games there are and how long the season is. And when you have both sports going at the same time, it's hard on us.
Do you just do the home games, or do you
just the home games? And we get a lot of questions about that. The primary reason is due to not having two things. Not having the actual facility at those other locations. In other words, we never know what we would be going into. And, I try to get the kids on, the telecom equipment is professional equipment, and we don't have these big networks that have these big trucks and stuff that carry all this stuff from places. It's just me and my van, so it's hard for us to maneuver all the equipment around. So when we set up for football season, at the beginning of the season, we lug all that stuff up to the press box and we leave it there. I mean, it's set up for the season, and then we just went yesterday to get that equipment because we'll use that same equipment for the basketball season, and then we'll take that and set it up and pretty much leave it mostly set up, and we'll move it when we need to get out of the way of other events. But when you have game after game after game, like 2 and 3 a week, there's not much point in tearing it down. You just leave it set up. So a lot of it's logistics, just being able to move the equipment and then having a place to set up when we get to the other games. And we've tried it in the past, and it always turns out you get a 2-foot area, and you know, and
Yeah.
you can maybe get a tripod.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're trying to do, you know, play-by-play, and you're trying to get a tight shot and a wide shot and a switcher and a commercial, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work for us that way. And again, just the fact that there's so many. In basketball anyway, there's so many games that it would just be impossible. I mean, that in itself would be a full-time job, and that's not, you know, that's only one facet of what we do, especially with the holidays coming.
No.
So,
All right, and this program is, I mean, I go back to Tim Hinton and Dave
Yep,
Johnston.
yep.
This program's been on the air for many, many years, and it's been a lot of fun.
yeah, and it continues to grow. I mean, I think that's the one part of this that people don't probably get a sense of is the technology and how fast it changes, and how, I mean, every year it's a new editing system, every year it's a new camera, every year it's a new plug-in. It's always something new that I have to keep up with, and then in order to teach the kids what that is, and it's just rapid fire, but it's always exciting. So,
Well, I always enjoy it. Look forward
Yeah.
to doing basketball again this
very
year.
good.
All right.
We'll see you then.
That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Coach's Corner program and the fall edition of the Coach's Corner program. Hope you can tune in another few weeks when we tip off a new sports season. For John Mullins, I'm Jeff Ruth.